So recently, maybe a few months ago, Blizzard released these new class strengths and weaknesses for all 11 classes that lists what they're good at, what they're bad at. Um, a lot of them are just completely wrong. Like, look at Hunter. Strengths, direct damage. No, Hunter has pretty mediocre direct damage. Even for standard, it's pretty mediocre. Weaknesses, healing and board clearing. Again, even in standard, that's not very true. Wild, incredibly wrong about board clearing and direct damage. So I was thinking, what if I went through and, I'm going to do it for Wild, because obviously, say the strengths and weaknesses of every class. And it's actually pretty interesting to think about, because you have some classes like Death Knight where technically there should be 4 sets of strengths and weaknesses, but there's really only one. For Death Knight, you have strengths being undead, corpses, healing, minion swarms. So undead and corpses aren't actually a strength. That's just something the class does. Like, is an identity of the class. It has undead and it has corpses. It's not a strength. And I don't know why you put that. So I'm gonna take my tool here and I'm gonna just get rid of this. Oops, select the layer. Just get rid of it. Nope, not real. So what are the actual strengths of Death Knight and Wild? Well, sorry, let's get you back. So in Wild, Death Knight has even Death Knight, which means it has cheap removal. What else does even Death Knight have? It has infuse cards, but that's not really a Death Knight thing, that's a neutral thing. But it has hard to clear sticky boards. Sticky boards. Let's change that to a comma. And it has incredible burst damage. As well as board reload. That's pretty accurate to what I would say are the strengths of Death Knight for Wild. Blood Death Knight, Rainbow Death Knight, Frost Death Knight don't really exist, so you can only really talk about even Death Knight. It'll be funny, actually. One second. I'm actually going to make it so it specifically looks like even Death Knight to people. I know it's blurry, but take you. All right, there we go. It's blurry, but I mean, it gets the point across. Now, what is Death Knight bad at? Well, let's do this actually so I can keep the colors. Oops. Death Knight has terrible direct damage. Direct damage. It has bad healing. Healing. It's bad into combo decks. Weak into combo. And it can't, not very good at going late. Not great at going late. Yes, of course you have Lord Marrowgar, but if Marrowgar gets cleared late game, you just lose, no matter what. So I think this is pretty accurate to what are the strengths and weaknesses of Death Knight. In Wild, at least. You can't really play on Rainbow or, Frost or Blood, but even Unholy is okay. I don't know why I put lot. Let me fix that, actually. Oops. What the heck? Alright, cool. So, that's Death Knight. I think this is pretty accurate, like I'm saying. So, let's go on to the next one. So, Demon Hunter is, crazy fucking wrong. Entirely wrong. All of these are wrong. Well, card draw's not wrong, but minion swarms, not really. Destroying big minions, not even slightly. Card generation, I guess. But let's do this. There's the paint tool. Let's get rid of you. Oops. Just cover it all up. Get it all out of here. So what is Demon Hunter good at in Wild? Well, it's good at card draw, mana cheat, card draw and mana cheat, as well as what else does Questline Demon Hunter do? It makes one gigantic board and kind of prays that it can win the game off that. Or it steals your deck with Togwaggle. Or I guess in the past it would be Tony. So let's say building large boards and I'm just going to write Mana Burn. Mana Burn. I'm just going to write Mana Burn because that's a really strong card. Then, what is Demon Hunter weak at? It's consistency. Disruption. Weak to weak to disruption. And it kind of just like rolls over to certain aggro decks, you know? Poor removal. I think this is pretty accurate for Demon Hunter and Wild. You're only playing Questline Demon Hunter. Demon Hunter and Death Knight are very easy to do because they only have one playable deck. So it's not very consistent. It's very weak to disruption. It has poor removal. I mean, that's just pretty accurate as it stands. So I think these two, very easy, got them out of the way, and now you got to do some more slightly difficult ones. So Druid is also incredibly fucking wrong. Mana Drain and Generation, yeah. Giant minions and minion swarms, nope. Weaknesses, destroying big minions, nope. Board clearing, nope. So let's do this. Get this shit off, because that is not even slightly the weaknesses of the Druid class. Oops. Let's just, yeah. Oh, come on, dude. I'm sorry. I'm still still sick, so I'm not full skill. Okay, what are the strengths of Druid? Ramping, of course. Then you have... Druid has decent removal, okay? Armor gain, for sure. Damage. I'm gonna put mana cheat. Mana cheat. Card draw. Removal. OTK. OTKs. Druid has pretty standard or pretty powerful OTKs. What is Druid weak at? Druid is pretty weak at, early game removal. Not including Questline. I have to put that because Questline Druid fucking dunks on aggro. He's put hyper aggro. And disruption. Those are pretty good into Druid, I'm not gonna lie. That's weird. Why is there a J there? But yeah, Druid is, a relatively strong class. When Druid isn't good, it's not really because it's getting countered, it's because this card's got nerfed. Druid never falls out of the meta. Druid is killed from the meta is kind of the issue with this class. Again, Druid's relatively easy to do because it's so blatantly overpowered most of the time that, yeah. So then you have Hunter. I actually already did Hunter first. It's why I kind of thought of this idea. So I'm just going to open that image up and show it to you. The original strengths and weaknesses don't really make sense either. Beast Secrets, it's not a strength or a weakness. It's just something the class does. Same with Death Rattles. And direct damage is not something Hunter is good at by any means. Like, you have Agrimar, and that's it. You don't really have very good direct damage. And then healing, Hollowhound kind of disproves that. Board clearing, not even slightly true. Hunter has some of the most efficient AoE removal in the game. Dreadscale, Bloom, and Felderin are insane cards. And then comeback mechanics, I guess that whatever that means, but yeah. So like I said, I had already done the Hunter one, so I'm not just going to redo it. But the strengths and weaknesses of Hunter are pretty accurate. Or not pretty accurate, they're pretty cut in stone. You know, Hunter has weirdly hyper-efficient removal. It's very good at tutoring. It has really strong anti-combo tools. It's not really a good aggressive class outside of, you know, being an anti-combo deck, but it's just, yeah. And then Hunter is weak to armor, it's weak to healing, it can't draw multiple cards, and it's very, very weak late game. It's just not a good late game class. Like, if you're not winning on turn 7, you're usually not winning the game. Mage. So, again, Mage is pretty wrong. I mean, spells, spell damage, secrets, board control, not really. And then weakness, healing, taunt, minion buffs. What the fuck does that mean? What does taunt mean, dude? Like, what? So, again, I always forget. Cover these up. I just use like a free Photoshop tool because I prefer it actually over actual Photoshop, even though I have it. So let's see. What is Mage good at? Mana cheat. Random generation. Ice block. Ice block. And beating slow decks. Mage is very good at these things. It has a lot of mana cheat. You can use Mana Biscuit. You can use Mana Siphon. You can use, you know, a lot of just good cards. Random Generation. You have Vast Wisdom, which is also mana cheat. You have, what's it called? You have, Infinitize the Maxitude, which is also mana cheat. Ice block, self-explanatory, and then beating slow decks, again, self-explanatory with Time Warp. What are the weaknesses of Mage? Hyper aggro. It's weak to hyper aggro. It's weak to disruption. Mage doesn't really have healing. And I think lastly, it's weak to mill cards. If you can make your opponent draw cards, you know, you can make it so they can't really complete their quest. And Mage just can't really, if they don't complete. Again, Mage, another one of those classes that only has one deck in the format. It's Quest Mage, Reno Quest Mage, I guess. But if you can disrupt them to kill them past Ice Block or make it so they can't really play the game. I guess Mill kind of fits in with Disruption, actually, now that I think about it, so I'm not going to put that. Let's remove that. And yeah, I think those are pretty accurate, just those three then. Quest Mage is a fine deck. It does just roll over to Hyper Aggro, but yeah, it makes sense. Paladin. Paladin's another class that's just completely wrong. Direct damage, I guess, not really, because Holy Wrath, so that's already wrong. Destroying big minions, you have equality, so I don't really know why that would be bad. Or like equality effects, so I don't really know why that would be bad for Paladin. And then and then Divine Shield, Minion Swarms, buffs and debuffs. Yeah, buffs and debuffs, I guess, for sure. So let's go over here. Come on. Paladin. Okay. The strengths of Paladin. Board generation with Showdown. Showdown's the best card in this in Paladin. It's one of the best cards. Efficient removal. Did I spell that right? No, there's an E where it doesn't need to be. Why did I put that? Efficient removal. Actually, I think that E was the one that I missed right there for some reason. Direct damage. Holy Wrath. And then board buffing. You have Crusader's Aura and you have Deputy Aura. It's really, really good. What are the weaknesses of Hunter? Paladin. Paladin is pretty weak to removal. Or here. AoE removal. Armor. Because of Holy Wrath. And consistent card draw, I would say. Paladin's card draw is okay, but it's not amazing. Paladin has relatively few weaknesses, but it's not an amazing class in Wild. Yes, you have Odd Paladin and Holy Wrath Paladin, but those kind of have similar strengths, right? They have great board generation, they have great direct damage and board buffing, and, you know, they have pretty decent Swarm, but I think board generation is better than writing Swarm. I don't like the term Swarm for Paladin. So, Priest is definitely going to be one of the harder ones to do, because Priest can do a lot of things in Wild. Let's go over here. Healing. Death Rattle. Card copying. Single minion buffs. Board clearing. Weaknesses. Direct damage. That's a lie. Multi-minion buffs. Multi-minion buffs, yeah, sure. Only 2 weaknesses. Priest is kind of whack, but I don't know why they would do that. It's not really a weakness, it's just something the class it doesn't do. Okay. So, a strength of Priest. Mana cheat. Did it not put an M? That was weird. Mana cheat. Card draw. Direct damage. What else? Swarming. Because of Shadow Priest has really good swarming ability. I think those are pretty accurate. Oh, and minion buffing. And the weaknesses of Priest. Priest is, removal. Here, AoE removal. And disruption. AoE removal and disruption. Combo Priest decks are incredibly weak to disruption. Their game plan just doesn't work. But that's what combo decks just in general are weak to disruption. And then AoE removal into Shadow Priest. It makes a lot of sense. I guess I could also put armor. Same thing. Shadow Priest is kind of weak into armor. And Priest just kind of suffers to AoE removal as a class overall. Rogue. Combo cards, not a strength. Card draw, and then weapons, not a strength. Weaknesses, taunt, what the fuck, healing, and board clear, I guess. Sure. Let's go remove them. Okay. So, what are the strengths of Rogue? Mana cheat, card draw, for sure. Rogue has incredible of both. It's It's pretty crazy. Uh, Board generation. You have Pirate Rogue, you have Miracle Rogue. They just make crazy wide boards, and they are able to kill their opponents pretty efficiently off that. Direct damage for sure. Direct damage because of combo decks, and then burst damage when you have cannons and you have your fucking 4/3 weapon. It's just very, very efficient at those things. And then, what are the weaknesses of Rogue? AoE removal and disruption. I guess I should put armor for that as well. Rogue and Priest are actually incredibly similar classes in their weaknesses because, Pirate Rogue and Shadow Priest, incredibly similar decks. Miracle Rogue and Miracle Priest, incredibly similar decks. Of course, you have Mind Rogue, which is, a combo deck, Alstra's Rogue as well, but they lose to Disruption, they lose to Armor, because you can only do so much damage with those decks unless you go later in the game, but again, you could just lose by that point. Shaman. Shaman has a fair few decks in Wild. Strengths, totems, elementals, minion swarm, yes. Direct damage spells, yeah. Weakness, card draw, not really, not even slightly. Card generation, I guess. Card generation is not really weakness, it's just something the class doesn't do. I don't know why they keep putting that for stuff like this, where they keep saying things the class doesn't do as a weakness. Just because your class doesn't do something doesn't make it a weakness, Okay, strengths. You have Mana Cheat, 0 cost AoE buff spells, minion buffs. You have Wind Fury, you have Trusty Companion, you have Jam Session, card draw, direct damage, disruption, and Shadowrock Shaman, and late game Sharon. And then a late game guaranteed win condition with Shutterwalk. I mean, if you go late into Shutterwalk, a lot of the time you just lose the game. It's pretty disgusting as a late game bomb. If you play Reno and then Shutterwalk, your opponent can't play minions for the rest of the game. Absolutely disgusting. Mana Cheat, of course, you have Flash of Lightning, which is disgusting card. Grumble even sometimes lets you do some crazy things. 0 cost AoE buff spells, Totemic Might and Surge, disgusting cards. Minion buffs, like I was saying, Jam Session, Wind Fury, Trusting Companion. Direct damage, you have Frog Shaman, which can deal a lot of burst damage. Shutterwalk Shaman has really good disruption, and then, of course, Shutterwalk Shaman, just as itself. What are the weaknesses of Shaman? AoE removal, disruption, and that's kind of it. I mean, just because a class has only, quote-unquote, two weaknesses, doesn't mean that the class, doesn't have bad matchups, Shutterwalk Shaman isn't amazing into aggro, but it has okay removal tools. It doesn't have great removal tools. It's definitely not a strength of the class, but it's still something it can do. It does suffer to AoE removal for Shutterwalk, for even Shaman, and Disruption really messes up Frog Shaman, and sometimes Shutterwalk Shaman. Warlock. Strengths, demons, not a thing. I don't know why. I still don't get why they put that. Just because it's something a class does doesn't make it a strength. Card draw, yes. Minion swarms, Weaknesses, direct damage, no. Minion buffs, just because it's something the class doesn't do doesn't make it a weakness, as I keep saying. So let's get rid of you. Oops. Also, wait, Warlock doesn't even have bad minion buffs. It's fucking Power Overwhelming and the new 1 mana +3/+3 spell. Like, what? That's just a lie. Okay, strengths. Mana cheat. Card draw. Direct damage. AoE removal. Spot removal. Healing. AoE and yeah, AoE minion or buffing. AoE buffing. You have two pretty good AoE buff spells in what is it? The 1 mana discard a card, give +1/+1, and the 1 mana Ingrim Rally, which is destroy minion, give +1/+1 to all minions. Both of those are really good spells. Warlock has great mana cheat. Warlock has obviously great card draw. Look at the fucking hero power, dude. They have good direct damage with the quest line and with Crescendo. They have great AoE removal with, obviously Crescendo again, Defile, Plague of Flames, stuff like that. They have spot removal. I guess spot removal isn't the right term, but whatever. And then, they have good healing, and then, as I already said, the AoE buffing. What is Warlock weak to? Burst damage / direct damage. They do a lot of damage to themselves. So, of course, they're going to be taking a lot. They're not going to... Sometimes Warlock will just have 15 health on, turn 5, and then you just kill him. It's very possible. Disruption, as always. When you have one card that if you lose it, you lose the game, Disruption typically is very good in your deck. And what else is there? Actually, can I I don't like that. And then Warlock, I mean, they don't really have any other weaknesses. If I'm trying to think about it, right? Disco Lock and Questline Warlock are typically the only playable Warlock decks. I guess even Warlock as well. I don't know. I think this is pretty accurate. Just these 3 weaknesses. Then, lastly, you have Warrior. Strengths. Armor, yes. Taunt. Weapons, just because it's something the class does, doesn't mean it's a strength. Or lastly, and then destroying minions, yes. Weaknesses, direct hero damage, not even slightly true. Hero damage spells, sorry. Yeah, I guess. Again, for the millionth time, just because it's something the class doesn't do, doesn't make it a weakness. And then minion swarms, sure. I said it a million times. I'm not saying it again. So we're going to get rid of this. Okay. Warrior has good card draw, AoE removal, armor gain. Why did the R capitalize? Direct damage. And what else? Even Warrior, Odin Warrior. I mean, Hot Warrior doesn't really exist. Yeah, I feel like it's just these. Card draw, AoE removal, armor game, and direct damage. And then what are the weaknesses of Warrior? It's slow. Very slow. What do these warrior decks lose to? Gauntlet Warrior loses to art weapon removal. I guess it's still a pretty slow deck. Odin Warrior, yeah, they're just very slow, right? So you can if you can kill them before they can really play their Odin. So I guess dying before Odin, that is a pretty big weakness. Disruption, as always. And yeah, I think that's it. Warrior, all the Odin decks are pretty weak to disruption. If you pull Odin, or you somehow destroy Odin, or you kill them before Odin, or you make it so they can't really, play spells after Odin, they can't play minions after Odin, then yeah, you can win the game from there. That's why Shutterwalk Shaman is pretty good into Warrior. Actually, it's unplayable for Warrior, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, so that's all the classes. I'm going to go back through them one by one. Death Knight, here's all the strengths and weaknesses. You can stop, pause, and see all of them again. Demon Hunter, Druid, Hunter, Mage, Paladin, Priest, Rogue, Shaman, Warlock, and Warrior. If you enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll check you guys out next time. Peace.